the Desert Tiger Podcast.
Now I hear you. That's great.
Oh my goodness. There we go. Hello, Melotika. How are you doing?
I'm good. Sorry about that. It's a new phone, and I guess all the audio settings were just turned off.
Of course, no worries. As long as we were able to figure it out, that's what matters.
Totally.
All right, fantastic. Hype. I'm glad to finally meet you, even if it's just an e-meet, but I've been listening to you since my conversation with Crossed Out, since you guys have worked together for quite a while, so just naturally I fell into your music from there.
Yeah, you guys had a really great podcast. So I was really looking forward and seeing if I can be a part of it too. It was awesome. One of his best podcasts, actually. It was really cool.
Well, awesome. Hopefully we can do the same for you today here then. Awesome. Do you have any questions or concerns before we start, or are you ready to jump on into it?
I'm ready to jump on into it. Let's do this.
Okay, all right. So from my research, I can see that you were going the traditional university route before deciding to pursue music. So what was it, just inside your soul you needed to pursue music, or what was that moment?
Yeah, that's such a fun question. It's always been kind of in me since I was a kid, sort of. I always had that dream, so cliche too, that I always just wanted to do music, write songs, sing, dance, do the whole kind of thing, and been a little bit inspired by my father as well, because he's a drummer and all his stories about playing in bands here in Montreal was really cool. And yeah, what happened along the way in high school and college and university, because here in Montreal, we have like the three stages of schooling. We got high school, CJET, aka college, and then university. So I was kind of just trying to make my mom happy by going to school until I just had the realization when I was 20 or 21, around that time, like, I can't just do this. Like, I'm young now. I got to just do what I really want to do. My mom was crying. She didn't want me to stop going to university. And I just dropped out of a really solid program and went to music production trade school, like a year intensive, and it started there.
So when you went to school for music production, was that also in Montreal?
It was, yeah.
Okay. So how do you end up in Toronto then?
So right after I finished the 1 year intensive program of audio engineering and music production, I was really trying to think larger than just staying in my hometown. It was either going to be going to New York City, which would have been a bit more complicated. I was looking with like the working visas and then the passports, and their health system there was a little bit, not to my convenience. So then I was checking out Toronto because it's just next door. And Aaron, Crossed Out, went to the same school as me. So we kind of like were friends, like we knew each other. So he made this post on Facebook back in 2015. He's like, does anyone want to start like a punk band with me? And I wrote back and I said, you need a singer? And he was living back in Campbellford. So that's a small town in Ontario. And so we just kind of had this back and forth exchange about the bigger city, Toronto. And then he ended up moving there. And then he was like, come and visit me in Toronto. At least you'll have a friend and see if you like the city. And I did, and I moved.
All right. So at what point do you begin writing your own music then? I mean, obviously it probably have been a while. So I guess my question is, how do you go about transitioning from the schooling and moving into Toronto to actually crafting that first EP?
Well, I always had a little collection of poems and songs that I've been writing, honestly, since I was 8 years old. I was just always writing in my free time. And when I was living in Toronto in 2015, I was sort of scouting out musicians. Like there was Craigslist was still popular at the time. And there was an ad looking for a singer to jam with. So I go, little old me meeting some strangers, and we wrote a song that year. That was the first, I guess, real song with like a stable kind of like a solid sound and everything. And it didn't end up going anywhere, but I'm like, man, I really like this experience of just meeting strangers and just like writing songs and seeing like where it, like what you can do with that, the connection with meeting other people and writing with other people. So I was just always on the lookout for people who would be interested in working with me and liked my vision. And I just dived into the unknown.
Feet first, hey?
Yeah.
Just went right in. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So your first single and your first EP were released in 2018. So what was it like to finally reach that moment after years of having to make very big decisions to finally have that payoff, to finally release a piece of Melotika out into the world?
Well, it's funny you say a piece of Melotika because it was half of Melotika. A lot of people don't know that at the time, Melotika was a duo project. So I met this guy in Toronto. He goes by the name Jackman Jones now, and he's a DJ and electronic music producer. And again, I found him on a Craigslist. He was looking for a singer and songwriter. And so we just met at Starbucks. Yeah, I like this song. Okay, I'll write to it. It was the first time someone just gave me like a beat and they were like, can you write to this? All right, I'll try it out. I didn't know like where this was going, but then we just had like really good chemistry back and forth. And I would give him suggestions of, different chord changes, different melody changes and things like that, different instruments. So we ended up making that entire debut EP together under the stage name Melotika that we both created together as a duo at the time.
Okay. Awesome. So transitioning forward from that first EP and being a duo, so going out onto your own, what was it like to step out on your own? And then transitioning forward, how have you crafted and built yourself as an artist over these last 2-3 years?
I kind of made the bold move of like right away just being really honest to myself and honest to my collaborator. And we're still good friends now. But I was telling him at the time, like, I really loved this experience of like working with someone new and actually producing music and recording in studio and getting the package out there. But it was still not me, if that makes any sense. It was like half and half. It was half Mel and half Jackman Jones. So I told him at the time, I'm going in a more alternative like route moving forward. What do you think? Like, should we still be a duo or should we just do our own thing? And he was like, you're Melotika. You go ahead and do your own thing because you're Melotika. I'm like, what do you mean I'm Melotika? I felt so bad at the time. It's an awkward moment when it's like when a band breaks up, but it was just my entry point, I guess, in the music industry when him and I collaborated, and he was totally fine with me moving forward with the stage name Melotika as a solo artist. So then I started, I don't even know, how did that happen? Everything happened so fast. I met a producer in Toronto. His name is Adam. Now he goes by the stage name Rain. And we together in studio created Joyride, which is a more industrial alternative electro pop sound.
Okay, so you started to experience a few more different sounds then.
I started getting the little more edgier and rock side of me out into the world. So it was a little bit, I think, shocking for people at first. They're like, well, wait a minute, you were just doing like the bubblegum urban pop experimental stuff. And now you're like in silver body paint out in the street, rocking out to like industrial electro pop. I'm like, well, this is me. Like, this is the real Melotika. And people were shocked, but loved it at the same time. So,
well, sometimes it takes a few steps in order to get to that point, right? Sometimes you have to maybe go through an album of just experiencing and writing and finding out, is this what I want? How do I go from here? What do I really want?
Exactly. Like if you don't just dive into doing something that you're not comfortable with, you don't get to actually learn, what you really want to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, with some of these tracks like Joyride, which you mentioned, you've also done a lot of remixes of these tracks, continuing to work with various DJs and producers, and you've also done a few top lines on a few different dance tracks, such as Eternal Eclipse, which recently released. So, what has that sort of been like to sort of experience more of the dance world?
The dance world has always been a huge part of me. When I was younger, I took up ballet, jazz, and hip hop lessons. So I had two sides of me. I had the rock girl who was moshing at the alternative concerts, and then I had the dancer. So I kind of like to fuse the two together to kind of create my own thing. So I really wanted to reach out and explore with the lyrics I have created and songs I wrote, what we can do if we do like a trip hop remix or liquid drum and bass remix or deep house. And so my current producer is a guy called Sean Savage. He's awesome, Toronto based, and he did all these remixes. And he's currently the one who's been working on my upcoming single that will be out next week and my album this year. So it was sort of our way to see how we work well together while he was making those remixes. And so it was just for fun. There's no real thought into them, just to get like that content out there while working on new music. But Eternal Eclipse, that one was special. It was a friend in Germany. He reached out to me and he's like, do you want to sing over my EDM song? I'm like, I'm honored. No one's ever asked me to do that. So I just got to writing, and it's literally about being stranded in this horrible time with the pandemic and feeling so lonely. Like I was so lonely. My boyfriend crossed out. He's out working all day. I'm home alone with the cats. So I'm literally in my lyrics singing a song, singing alone. It was so brutally honest to the times. And I think a lot of people could relate to it.
Downtown, the people are watching you. I was thinking that you're kind of cool, sweet.
Also, a very, very catchy track, and so is your upcoming track, which is out by the time that the listeners will be hearing this episode. Of course, I'm talking about Beautiful Disguise. So let's dive a little bit into this track, what it means to you, how it all came together.
Oh, yeah. I started writing that song when I was 19 and I'm 28. So that's almost like that's a decade ago. Beautiful Disguise, I was really contemplating if I would release that first to introduce like my brand new sound. Because the thing that I'm going with Beautiful Disguise and the upcoming album is really like a blend of everything you've heard, all the random like electro, urban pop, the random alternative synth pop stuff, all merged into one project that finally makes sense. I sort of felt I was all over the place, discovering myself still, but now I'm pretty confident that I have somewhat of a solid sound and I know like where I'm going with all of this. So that's a start with Beautiful Disguise, the retro sort of throwback to the 80s sound and really intimate lyrics that I started writing when I was 19. Finally getting that out into the world is kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, like you said, well over a decade, but sometimes doing something right takes a little bit of time, and we're finally here. Okay, so what did the lyrics of Beautiful Disguise mean to Melotika?
It first started out as just like a cheesy, cheap breakup song. I was an angsty teenager, so I had some not cool boyfriends, as many young girls probably did. And, just writing your anger, it used to be called Misery and or Victim, like the song kept changing. But then I reinvented the song this year. I'm like, okay, I'll take this concept, but this concept has been pretty overdone, like a breakup song. How can I make this into something a little bit like more creative and more edgy? So I was using a more fictional, creative part of my brain, if that makes any sense. Instead of writing from like 100% like truth and experience, I decided to write a more type of fictional narrative, if that makes sense in the song. So I was like envisioning, you know, along the trend of a toxic relationship, but also at the same time, like a mysterious, like beautiful disguise, a forbidden lover, which I think a lot of younger people too can relate to, teenagers, of course. I was sort of thinking of like Captain Mask, is that his name? From like Sailor Moon, like really fictional.
Tuxedo Mask.
Mask, yeah.
Like my favorite character in Sailor Moon. The only reason I watched it.
Yeah, just like playing around with like a new concept, like something I've never really done before, and that maybe a different audience can really vibe to.
Okay, adding a little bit of an air of mystery then. Okay, awesome, awesome. And you mentioned that this is a piece of an upcoming album. So, what can you tell us about this upcoming piece of work, this collection that you're going to be releasing?
Well, we just talked about this before. That first song I wrote when I first moved to Toronto has been reinvented, and I'm finally releasing it this year, and it's going to be on the album. It's the second single. It will be called Crazy. And that song meant a lot to me because that was the first time I really, really, really wrote a song and really wanted to release a song. But I held on to that song for 6 years. So it's kind of like you have so much baggage on you and then you're finally going to like get rid of it. Well, that's how I feel with this song. So that, for one thing, I'm super stoked about just getting it out into the world. But the entire album is definitely a concept in itself. It's called Dancing Without You. And it tells stories that I never got to tell anyone before. It's really personal stories about like the struggles I had when I was a teenager. I mentioned I was an angsty teen, and just like a little bit of my early 20s, like diving into the unknown and changing my path and going into music. And a lot about like loss, losing people in your life. Lots of personal stories in the album. Created into new retro dance music.
Okay. So kind of giving that retro vibe, paying homage to the past while you pay homage to your past.
Exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it. All
But
right.
I love the 80s too. Like the thing with Melotika is that I'm never just stuck in one genre. Like it's so hard for me to just focus on one project. And I decided to do that last year in 2020 when I was trying to design this entire montage of songs called Dancing Without You. And I decided to go the retro route. I've been inspired by Madonna and Michael Jackson and Blondie, Eurythmics, Depeche Mode. So we really explored these elements in the mixing as well.
Awesome. I'm a huge Blondie fan, so that makes me very excited.
Oh yeah, you'll hear some Blondie elements, especially with the synths that we chose. And we ran the vocals through tape also to give that really vintage new wave texture.
Oh, now I'm really excited. This is hype. This is very hype. Sick, sick. All right. So we've dove into this journey so far. We've dove into this upcoming album. Is there any music videos or any other goodies that may be coming our way otherwise?
On the day, next Friday, February 12th, I'm going to be dropping as well the music video. And that video, that's a funny one because it was super last minute, stripped down. I remember we had a snowstorm. I was in Toronto doing my press release photo shoots. And I really wanted to get this video done before Christmas just because planning is really hard. And with the lockdowns, you can't plan anything. You'll book a studio, but then you'll have to cancel it because there's new rules every day. So I had a last minute photographer in. We did this really random handheld retro stripped down music video. So that'll be cool. That's going to be released next Friday. And I'm actually doing something different this year. Instead of hiring videographers as I used to in the past, I got my own camera and I'm going to be making my own music videos moving forward. So a total do-it-yourself year.
Okay. Changing the game a little bit, dipping your toes in the world of videography.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, I understand just how difficult and different that can be, so I wish you the best of luck inside of that journey.
It won't be too bad. I've had some experience doing film. I did study that too here in CJEP. So it's fun to go back to an old passion. Although it's really hard to edit yourself because you always think you don't look good and things like that. Almost like why I don't like to hear my own songs because I always think I don't sound good. So editing myself and directing myself is a little bit weird, but I'm getting used to it. We did that for Eternal Eclipse. We filmed the music video with a cell phone and a green screen in my living room.
You did a fantastic job with that green screen. Like, you can barely see any bleed. Like, there is no bleed at all. Like, you did a fantastic job.
I tried. I was like, I can't move because if I move, the lighting changes and the green screen is not consistent. So I'm like, just in front of the camera. I'm like, don't move. The editing's going to be hard if the lighting gets ruined. So that was my first time trying it out. It was a great experience. I'm loving the DIY fashion trend this year.
Awesome. Well, I mean, hey, it's if you can get it done, if you've got some time, why not, right?
I've got lots of time. We're in the middle of the pandemic. Everything's shut down. We've got curfews in Quebec, so no excuses.
No excuses. Might as well learn a new skill. All right, Melotika. So before I ask my last question, where can the ambush, the listeners of the DTP, find out more about you?
Like where they can find more about me?
Where they can find you, follow you, any of that fun stuff.
Instagram is my favorite platform. I'm always in the house. You'll always see the little green ring around me. I'm always like doing something live with my hangout and chats or my stories about my cats and sharing, I'm just always story sharing, trying to get all my messages across and trying to relate to as many people as I can. I started the Twitter thing this year, so I'm active there. I'm on Facebook. I always say Facebook is more for posting for my mom because Facebook has always been a dead zone for artists. But I'm there, and I've got my own website too, melotika.com. I'm everywhere, I guess.
Awesome, awesome. And they should definitely go and check you out at all of those locations and also stream yo music.
Please do.
All right, Mel, last question. So over this process, we've discussed how you've grown as an artist. You're dropping out of school, going through production, creating your first 2 albums. But what I want to know now is how has this process either helped you grow as a person, or what has it helped you learn about yourself?
That's a really good one. It just made me realize that I'm down to do whatever it takes to just follow my dream, whether that sounds like a cliche or not, but that's the absolute truth. I love writing in my story that, yes, I was that person that dropped out of university. My mom cried about it. I left town. I left to Toronto, packed my bags. I started fresh and just dived into the thing I wanted to do most. And, nothing you do will work as planned. Like I envisioned that this whole journey would be like so perfect from the beginning, but it's not. And it's okay that it doesn't work out the way you want it to work out. And it's okay that things aren't perfect because the little obstacles just make you stronger and make you make better music and have more stories to tell.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. I love the answer. All right, Melotika. I want to say thank you so very much for taking the time to join me here today.
Thank you so much. This was great.
I think I'm going insane. Words are flowing in vain. What can I do now? The world will never be the same. Look up, I can see the sun. Everybody's tripping out, taking back, shaking up. Nobody even knows my name. Thinking about tearing down, and I'm singing a song, singing along. What can I do without you? What can I do without you? Look outside, the moonlight shines your sun. It's eternal eclipse. It's eternal eclipse. It's eternal eclipse. It's eternal eclipse.